Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. Today I want to talk a little bit about whether or not I regret selling all of my Crested Geckos. Back in late 2023/early 2024, I made the decision to go ahead and sell off and close down my reptile breeding business, Stick Reptiles. I officially sold my last gecko around the end of May 2024. And so it's been about a year and 3-ish months or so since I sold my last gecko that I was planning to sell. And so I wanted to reflect a little bit on this since it's been about a year and whether or not I feel like I made the right decision, the wrong decision, and just some of the things that I've kind of learned and thought about since then. So the short answer on whether or not I regret selling all my geckos is no, but it's a little bit more complicated than that and a little bit untrue because technically, I didn't sell all of my geckos. I still have one crested gecko and my colony of mourning geckos. So, I sold 99% of my animals. I had around 180 crested geckos at my max earlier in 2024. And so I sold, obviously, the overwhelming majority of them. But I still do have, the one as a pet, the mourning geckos as a pet. And as we can see here, I'm sitting in front of my pond this morning. So I still have some fish as pets. And so I didn't get rid of all of my animals, just the overwhelming majority of them. So it's not true that I got rid of them all. And while I don't necessarily regret selling all of my animals, there is some things that I have thought about since then that I do miss, and some of them might be a little bit shocking. So one of the things that comes to mind right away that I missed doing over the past year is making these videos. Obviously, I enjoyed making the YouTube gecko videos and the little shorts and all the rest of it. And actually, before I had started this channel about my animals, I used to make gaming videos. And so 2024, which is when I kind of shut down, actually marked my 10-year anniversary on YouTube. I think I made my first video on July 14th, 2014. And since then, I've been pretty much posting consistently over that 10-year period. I don't think I ever missed more than a month at a time, making, probably over 1,000 long-form videos, maybe 100 shorts. So I made a lot of YouTube videos, and it was a big part of my life. And so when I stopped this channel, I didn't have any ideas of things that I wanted to make. And so there was a pretty big change, I would say, because, it'd been something I'd been doing for most of my conscious life. And so that's one of the big things that jumped out at me that I miss doing is making the videos. I enjoyed making the gecko videos. I did enjoy the gaming videos at one point, but I always liked making the gecko ones a lot. Another thing that I missed that's more gecko related over the past year is watching babies grow up. I always liked watching the little geckos grow into, juvenile geckos and then adult geckos. And so that's another thing that I really have thought about that I enjoyed doing. Yes, it was a lot of work, and yes, it was a lot of time to take care of all the baby geckos, but that is something I also enjoyed doing, and was probably one of my favorite things out of the gecko sphere, I would say, is, handling the babies and just seeing how they're progressing and growing. I guess not so much the handling, but just seeing how they're growing up and progressing. The third thing that I miss, which is going to be the most strange one, and for some people it's probably their least favorite thing to do, I think, is cleaning. I actually liked cleaning the geckos, looking back on it. Some weeks in the moment, I did not enjoy it. And that is, I think, fair. Anybody who's cleaned a lot of geckos probably understands. But looking back on it now, it gave me something to do. It was a good activity. And I had a pretty strict schedule about cleaning, so I always knew it was going to be needing to be done. And so it always gave me something to do, and it was a good time to just have on some podcasts or a movie or something and go to town cleaning some lizards. And it also gave me an excuse to see all the lizards, big, medium and small. So I had to take them all out and clean them, and I could see how they were progressing, which leads back into my second thing. And so I think cleaning geckos was something I actually enjoyed doing, looking back on it. I don't know if I would have said that in the moment because, it is a grind. I didn't have even that many geckos. 180, that's, a good amount, but not like a ton. And so some of the people who have, high hundreds or thousands of geckos who are constantly cleaning, I'm sure it gets to be more annoying than enjoyable. But with where I was at, it was not too bad, not as bad as I thought, looking back on it. So, do I regret selling the geckos? I still think the answer is no. It was the right decision to make. I don't have any regret about selling the geckos. There is things that I miss about the geckos. And in the first few months after I sold the geckos, I was like, kind of debating with myself, was like, should I have kept, maybe this one or that one, or maybe I should have just kept a couple, or maybe I should have kept like a couple and then a baby rack so that I could breed a couple if I wanted to. But then it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? Do I start with one or two or, five, and then, it ends up being more, and then I'm just back to where I started. I sometimes think about that, but I'm happy just having the morning geckos and the one pet gecko, even though I maybe should have picked a different one. I really like the one that I have, of course, but I picked one that's always been a little bit more janky, and so I don't really get to handle him that much, because he seems like he's always either jumpy or horny and wants to bite me, so it's not very fun handling him. So I wish I would have maybe kept one of my nice reds or something. But other than that, I don't regret selling the majority of them. I think it was the right thing to do with where I'm at in life, and I hope one day, like I've mentioned before, to get back into reptile breeding. I think that there's a very high probability I will be doing something with reptiles or fish, or maybe both. Ooh, that would be fun, in the future. But I think right now it was a good thing to do, and looking back on it, I don't regret doing the geckos and having the geckos and breeding the geckos. I think it was great for where I was at that time, and it was really enjoyable, and it'll be a good story for when I'm older. It did take up a good majority of my life between, I would say, 17 and 23. I would have been, right? Yeah, 23. And so I don't regret doing it. I don't regret selling them, and I'm happy I did both. I'm happy I got them, kept them, raised them for all those years, and I'm also happy that I eventually sold them all. And so that's kind of where I'm at a year after. I don't think things will change from here on out. When I was first planning on selling the geckos, in late 2023 and early 2024, this was a concern of mine that I would regret selling the geckos. And that's one of the things that would have been really hard to unwind once I had started. Getting geckos back and getting all the materials back would have been a difficult task. So I'm glad that, a year later, I'm still feeling good about it, and I made the right decision. I still am, this is a little strange fact. This all came about, by the way, because I was looking on Morph Market at some of the geckos for sale, and I was just thinking about some of the geckos I had, and then I thought about this video, and it's like, I could probably talk about that. But number one, there is a lot of crazy animals for sale on Morph Market that I have no idea what they are, like weird little super cap looking things that are like Patient Zero-esque, but not quite, and there's all this other stuff that I'm not familiar with. So lots changed in the year or 2 years since I was really up on the gecko stuff, so that's pretty interesting. But number two, but the second thing is that the other day I was cleaning out my storage, my cloud storage, and I happened to come across, I have all my gecko photos saved in a big folder, and I have about 8,000 gecko photos. So I was looking to go back and delete some of the bad ones and just kind of sort them out, because I had some of them in miscellaneous folders. And one thing that I found interesting is that even 15 months later, I'm still very good with the gecko names. I mean, I had a lot of geckos over the years, and I could go back and sort them, and I'd be like, oh, this is so and so, put that one in this folder, this one over here. And I could just see the picture and remember all the names about them. I thought that was pretty interesting, because geckos, while they're all unique, some of them kind of blend together. And I did have trouble with some of the babies, because some of the babies would progress quite a bit and then you couldn't really tell. But with the adults, I was still pretty good at all the names of the geckos that I had once had. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't think they would be, maybe as memorable, I guess, but just seeing the photos, I was like, oh yeah, this is, so-and-so, and this is this one, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, that's going to about do it for this video. I don't have any other future videos planned, but something may come up, of course. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you next time I post.